We're now going to look at moving and trimming regions and the effect that the different edit modes have on this process. So the first thing we're going to look at is in slip mode. So as you know, we can use the grabber here. We'll select a region and slip. Obviously there is no constraint to bar lines, it's totally free. If I put a smaller region in the middle of a larger region and then take it away, the smaller region will trim out the larger region. Now all these things are undoable, so let me just undo that. And let's have a look at the other way around. If you take a larger region and put it on top of a smaller region, it will in fact erase the smaller region. So I'll just undo. If you look up here, start, end and length, when you move a region, you'll see the start and end and length update. Well, the length doesn't update, but the start and end does. If I was to trim, so I'm going to use the trim tool here, you'll see the length and the start update, or the length and the end update. Moving regions in grid mode. First of all, verify the grid timescale and size have been selected as desired. So let's do that. First I'm going to switch on the grid, and here the grid is in minutes and seconds. I'm going to move to bars and beats, and I'm going to select eighth notes. And now with the grabber you can move the region by eighth notes. Moving regions in shuffle mode. Select shuffle mode, select the region, and you'll see a yellow marker will indicate where the region will be dropped. As you let go of the mouse, adjacent regions will reposition themselves as needed. There we go. So let me just undo that. Moving regions in shuffle mode is a good way to make sure there's no gap between the two regions. Moving regions in spot mode. You select spot mode, select the region. When you select the region, the spot dialog will appear, and here you select your destination start point and the region will go there. Using the trim functions, select the region you want to trim. Now I'm going to zoom in on this region, select the trim tool up here, and you'll see that the trim tool looks to the beginning of the region. When you go halfway through the region, you'll see there it changes direction, and here you can trim the end of the region. So let me trim the end of the region, and here I'll trim the beginning of the region. If you want to trim down to say here, but you're before halfway point in the region, you hit Option. Option turns the trim tool to the other direction. So now I just have a snare drum. How do the different edit modes affect the trimming process? So let's first of all look at trimming in shuffle mode. If I was to trim the end of a region, these other regions, the two other regions, will move forward by the length that I've trimmed. So let me trim one measure off here, and the two other regions move one measure forward. The same applies if I trim the beginning of a region. So I'm going to trim that to measure 4. You'll see that the region that I've trimmed moves forward to measure 3, and the other two regions move forward one measure. So everything to the right of the region that you trim will be affected when you're in shuffle mode. Trimming with slip mode. Slip mode has no constraints. You can trim as you like, and you can trim onto another section. I'm just going to undo that. Or if you hit Control with Mac and Start with PC, you can trim up to but not across the region boundary. Trimming in grid mode is very like trimming in slip, except there are constraints. So we'll select eighth note grid, and you can trim across bar lines, or you can trim with Control Mac Start PC. You can trim up to but not across the region boundary. You can also trim in spot mode. So let's go into spot mode and select what we'd like to trim. Now I want the start to start at 7.2, and there we go. The beginning of that region is trimmed in spot mode. This is usually used in audiovisual if, for example, you have an ambience throughout a scene. You want it to start at a specific time point and end at a specific time point. It's not used a lot in music. We should look at the trim region command. Up until now we've been using the trim tool and trimming the beginning or end of a region. Now let's use the selection tool, and we'll select part of a region, go to edit, and down here you have trim region to selection. For Mac it's Command T, and for PC it's Control T. Effectively you get rid of everything outside your selection. So let me undo that. We'll make a selection here in the bridge and Command or Control T and get rid of everything outside your selection. Now we can also trim start and end points. Let me here select a point on this region. Now edit, trim region, start to insertion. You'll notice it's Option Shift 7 or Alt Shift 7 if you're on PC, and you can trim from the beginning of the region to the insert point. Let me just undo this. So what did we say? We said Alt Shift 7. So here Alt Shift 7 on the keyboard, and Alt Shift 8 trims the end. So now there are three very strong shortcuts. I'll just undo this to show you again. You can make a selection, Command or Control T, undo this, or you can select the start point, Alt Shift or Option Shift 7, and then at the end of the point Option Shift 8.